Hello everybody, Seth here with Minimalist Gourmet, and today I'll be showing you a Copycat Walker Shortbread recipe. These buttery, delicious cookies not only taste great, but have the most amazing texture. You're going to turn back to this recipe time and time again. So let's get started. We'll begin by taking 1 cup, that's 2 sticks of butter at room temperature in a large bowl. Now, to this butter, we're going to add a mere quarter cup of sugar. As I said, these cookies are nice and buttery here, but not very sweet. That's why the ratio is 4 to 1. We want to cream our butter and sugar very well. I'll be using my hand mixer, but you can use a stand mixer, wooden spoon, whisk. They'll all work just fine, just maybe take a little bit longer. After you've mixed it very well, make sure to scrape down the sides of your bowl and give it another good mix. You want to make sure that this is completely creamed together. We need to break down our 1 cup of rolled oats. I'll be using my blender because I don't have a food processor, but you can use whatever you have on hand. You should be able to use your regular carafe, but mine came with this little attachment, so I'm going to go ahead and utilize it. Now, when you're breaking it down, you can break it down as fine or as coarse as you'd like. This is going to add both flavor and a wonderful texture to the cookie, so I like to go with a medium grind here, not too coarse, not too fine, and this is what mine looked like after I broke it down. For those flavors to pop, we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt along with 1 whole teaspoon vanilla extract. We're going to put in our 1 cup of processed oats as well as 1.5 cups of all purpose flour. And that's it. That's all there is to these cookies. They're fairly simple, but deceptively delicious. Now we're going to mix everything together very well. Remember, there isn't any extra liquid or eggs in this batter, so it's going to be a little bit crumbly and dry. Don't worry, that's exactly as it should be. Make sure to scrape down the sides of your bowl and give it one final mix so there aren't any dry pockets of flour floating in there. You can use an 8x8 or 9x9 pan to make these cookies. I folded up a piece of parchment paper to act as a saddle, which will allow us to pull out our baked cookies later. Now we want to lubricate up our pan so nothing sticks to it. I'll be using the butter wrapper left over from the butter that I used in the dough itself. And of course, no stick cooking spray would work fine. Note that I buttered up the entire surface of my pan, including the bottom. I did this so it would actually hold my parchment paper saddle in place and prevent it from moving around while I'm loading in my dough. Go ahead and pour in all your dough into the pan and then use your hands to gently spread it out and make sure to fill in the entire bottom of the pan and all the corners. You definitely want to try to get a nice even layer so that everything will bake and be done all at the same time and there's no overcooking or undercooking. I like to fold over my parchment paper ears and use a flat bottom measuring cup to really flatten this out and make it nice and smooth. As you can see here, it actually works quite well to get a nice even layer, and that way everything finishes at exactly the same time when we bake it. We're going to score or cut this before we bake it because once these cookies are baked, they get too brittle to really cut effectively and they'll just crumble away. The way that I like to do this is start by cutting my dough in half down the center. Now I'm going to cut each of these halves into halves, making quarters, and then each of these quarters I'm going to cut in half again, making 8 strips. Once I have my 8 strips cut, I like to rotate the pan 90 degrees and make one final cut to make 16 cookies. And finally, before we bake, we need to give them that classic Walker shortbread look by docking these with a fork. Simply take a fork and place it into the cookies, not pressing all the way through. These holes will help the cookies bake a bit more evenly, as well as allow a little bit of steam to escape, helping ensure that they have a phenomenal crumbly texture. Now these are ready to go in the center of a preheated 350-degree oven for about 35 to 40 minutes. I let mine bake for about 38 minutes, and I think they look fantastic. They have a nice golden brown color, and you can really see those oats pop in the top. Now, this next step is very critical. Right when you pull them out of the oven and they're still very hot, you want to take your knife and go back, recutting along all those lines that you cut before you bake them. They're going to form back together a little bit as they bake, and you want to make sure to separate them while they're still warm. If you wait until they're cool to do this, it will be pretty difficult, and the chances of them cracking or breaking from the cutting is pretty high. So definitely do this right out of the oven, and you will be rewarded. Let these cool at room temperature for at least an hour before handling. Now this right here is why we use parchment paper, because it makes our life so much easier when we bake. Because we cut these before we bake them, as well as scoring them right out of the oven, we have perfectly formed cookies without any cracking or breaking. That's exactly why we took the time to do this. The cookies hold together perfectly fine until we want to break them, and then they break apart with ease. The crumb or the texture of this cookie is phenomenal. You have to try it. And the taste? Oh, yeah, that's definitely on point as well. They're lightly sweet and oh so buttery rich. That is exactly what we're looking for in a cookie like this. Even though there is flour and we've mixed them together, notice how it's not gummy or chewy. It has a nice crumbly texture, and that is beautiful. All there is left to do now is enjoy these with a nice glass of tea, coffee, or ice cold milk. Don't forget, these make a fantastic gift. Guys, it really is just that easy to make these delicious Walker shortbread copycats in your own home tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today. I do appreciate your time, and I hope to see you all again here next week on the next installment of The Minimalist Gourmet.